hottest team, a team that could potentially be in the AFC title game next year if they play their cards right,
Super Bowl.
or the Super Bowl. How about them Houston Texans? I'll go over real quick
Yeah.
what their salary cap looks like because they have a shit ton and they have room to grow. They have $67 million in cap space. However, they have the best quarterback in the division. They landed Will Anderson on the opposite side of the ball, and they have a couple other nice players as well. 67 million. There's a couple of players they can restructure. They want to restructure Laramie Tunsil's deal. That'll free up 11 million. They want to free up Tyus Howard's deal. That's another 8.5 million. So definitely some room to maneuver and some cut candidates to consider, whether it be somebody like a potentially a Robert Woods who you might see gone, or maybe just to free up a little bit of money. MJ Stewart, you could save about 3 million. Not a lot of players that you necessarily need to cut, but you
Yeah.
have plenty of cap space, restructure maybe a couple deals. And then free agency wise, not a lot of holes to fix. So they're in a great position to go out and get another receiver, go out and get someone maybe like a Khalil Mack
Yeah.
or Brian Burns or somebody on that defensive side of the ball to add alongside Will Anderson. Free agency, you'll see someone like Sheldon Ranks who could be gone, Dalton Schultz, good tight end, replaceable for sure. We're looking at Derek Barnett, Kaimi Fairbairn, the shortened name of Devin Singletary. He played well, but probably won't keep him. Denzel Perryman.
Yeah.
Not a lot of insanely irreplaceable guys by any means. Although you do like to see someone like Kaimi Fairbairn come back, maybe somebody like Dalton Schultz. I think maybe they
Yeah.
sign Devin Singletary to the right contract.
Yeah,
Potentially.
you can definitely sign Devin Singletary to the right contract here. And for me, for Houston, it is adding a little bit of beef to that offensive line, but this is the offseason that you need to get scary, and you need to, when you wake up and think about playing the Texans, you're like, I am horrified about going up against that defense, especially against the D'Amico Ryans led defense with Will Anderson, who is already one of the best pass rushers in the league as far as just pure win rate on the outside. So we're going after someone like Khalil Mack in free agency, someone like a Nick Bosa, or someone like Chris Jones if the Chiefs don't try and sign him, and then probably someone in the first round of the draft again. We go defense here, and then we'll probably go running back and receiver. But for me, CJ Stroud proved he could elevate someone like Nico Collins and Tank Dell and elevate all the offensive weapons around him. So I'm not as focused on the offensive skill positions because CJ Stroud has proven that he's going to elevate everyone around him in a Brady-esque fashion. And I believe if he has that lockdown, shutdown, terrifying defense and a really solid run game behind him, everything else will open up. And CJ Stroud is smart enough. He has the work ethic. He's going to be even better next year. So you can go ahead. He will be a quarterback that someone like a Stephon Diggs will want to play with. Someone like a Devontae Adams will want to play with. And you should go to Houston, not New York, and play with the Jets and rot there because Aaron Rodgers may or may not get hurt again. But you'll still be in the division with the Jets when you could be in Houston. It's warm, one of the most diverse cities in the country, and playing with CJ Stroud, who has a career ahead of him instead of behind him. So I like you trying to trade for either Diggs, Ayuk, or someone like Devontae Adams, then going running back in the draft, and then free agency, we are going offensive line, and we are trying to get someone as terrifying or just a little less terrifying because Will Anderson Jr. is really tough to compete with on that defense.
Here's my ideal free agency for the Texans. You mentioned some of the wide receivers that they can go after. I would love to see someone like T. Higgins on that team. We'll talk about the tag in a minute, but someone like him I think would be a perfect fit. They are linked to Saquon Barkley, which I think would be disgusting.
Christ.
I think their one hole on offense at this point is their running game, although it was fair enough last year.
Yeah.
But Dameon Pierce took a serious step back. I think Devin Singletary will end up walking and signing somewhere else. So if you can go out and get Saquon in free agency, you can pay him a good contract for a running back, and you still won't be set back too much. So go after Saquon at running back, and then if you could make a splash and sign one of those running back wide receivers you talk about, and then on the other side, you manage to get Khalil Mack on like a 2-year deal. That defense, which was already really good for the players around them last year, and you get Saquon, and you get another receiver, that
Yeah.
team is already horrifying. They're going to be even more horrifying next year if they can manage to get a sweep of those three.
Yeah, and really, like Houston, like just getting that elite pass rusher as well. But we know the way to beat great quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's pressure up the middle, but it's also the ability to play man to man. I mean, anytime Brady struggled in his career was a team like Denver or Baltimore could go man to man with the receivers and really shut them down. So I think you address that in the draft here. It's not like you have a ton of holes on the defensive end, but if you can just get another scary pass rusher and some corners that can play really good man to man, that's the way you're going to compete with the Bengals. And that's the way you're going to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs, because other than that, Baltimore, we'll see if they can recover from the absolute disappointing meltdown that they had at home. Usually teams have a tough time bouncing back from that, but it's the Bengals and the Chiefs, and you have to play man to man against those receivers and someone who can body up Kelsey or be able to generate a pass rush without having to blitz.
Yeah, exactly. And
And
I
I think
think,
they can.
yeah, especially with Will Anderson. And then we mentioned somebody else in free agency. They have a great opportunity to put themselves in that conversation with the Chiefs and the Bengals, who ultimately are the two teams to compete with in the AFC. We have the Ravens, we have the Bills, but they haven't made it over the hump yet. So those two
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah, and I think like the Colts and the Texans, those are going to be the two teams competing in their division, and it's going to be absolute wildfire because those two teams were a little bit of a flame last year. They turned into a bonfire, and then we're like, okay, look at how good and dynamic these two teams are with their new head coaches. And then this offseason, you talk about that cash that they have to spread out. The Colts have a little bit more, but the Texans, it's going to be something amazing to see here. Definitely looking forward to seeing both of these compete next year and throwing gasoline all over it this offseason.